Hello everyone, welcome to Hari's Success Point. In the last day's video, we discussed about the digestion of different substances, mainly carbohydrate, proteins, fat, etc. So today in our video, we will discuss the absorption of digested food. That means after digesting, the complex materials present in the food are digested or converted into simpler molecules. So these simpler molecules, they have to be absorbed into the bloodstream. So now we are going to see how the simpler molecules are absorbed to the bloodstream and how they are utilized in the cells or how they reach the cells for oxidation. Absorption is the uptake of water, minerals, vitamins and the end products of the digestion of carbohydrates, proteins, lipids and nucleic acids to the body fluids. The body fluid carries them to tissues for assimilation and oxidation. So mainly during the time of absorption, the simpler molecules or the so-called monomer units of carbohydrates, proteins, lipids and nucleic acids are transported across the intestinal lumen. So that process is called absorption. Digestion and absorption take place in the same area in intracellular digestion, but in extracellular digestion, absorption is restricted to some localized areas. As you all know, all the cells need their energy. So these cells acquire their energy through intracellular digestion. So intracellular digestion or digestion within a cell is common. It is present all over the body. But when we come to extracellular digestion or digestion within the alimentary canal, we cannot see absorption throughout the alimentary canal. So there are some definite or localized areas in which absorption occur. Now we are going to see the mechanism of absorption. Absorption, it is a physical and a physiological process. So it involves three major mechanisms and they are passive absorption, active absorption and bulk transport, or otherwise we can call it as facilitated diffusion. So now we are going to see passive absorption. Passive absorption or passive transport is the energy independent transport of substances in concentration and electrochemical gradient. So the main or the important thing that you have to keep in mind about passive absorption or passive transport is that it is energy independent. It does not depend upon ATP for the transport of materials. Absorption of water occurs by osmosis. Absorption of water soluble substances such as glucose, some vitamins and some minerals occurs by simple diffusion, and absorption of some sugars and fat soluble vitamins occurs by facilitated diffusion. Osmosis and simple diffusion are energy independent and carrier free transport of substances across the plasma membrane in a concentration gradient. So as you all know, in osmosis, water moves from the area of its higher concentration to a lower concentration. So it is purely dependent upon the concentration gradient of the water molecule. There is no need of a carrier protein or carrier molecule to take water molecule from the side of higher concentration to the side of lower concentration. But in the case of facilitated diffusion, it is an energy independent but carrier mediated transport of substances in a concentration or potential gradient. So when we come to facilitated diffusion, it is also energy independent. That means it does not depend upon ATP utilization. But what it requires is that a carrier protein. So a carrier protein will be present in the plasma membrane. So substances that are present in higher concentration bind to the carrier protein and the carrier protein takes the same molecule to the region of lower concentration. So, in the absence of ATP, the carrier molecule move to and fro to transport the molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. And the special proteins that take part in this facilitated diffusion is called permease, or it is a mobile carrier. And this permease enzyme or permease protein is located in the plasma membrane. The next one is active absorption. It is otherwise called active transport, and it is an energy dependent and carrier mediated transport of substances across the plasma membrane against concentration or potential gradients with the help of a mobile carrier called permease. So, in active transport, it is an energy dependent process. That means ATP is utilized in this process, and also it requires a carrier protein. So, active transport occurs mainly from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration, irrespective of the concentration gradient. For example, suppose 6 molecules of glucose are present outside the cell and 10 molecules of glucose are present inside the cell, but the cell requires more glucose. So, the mechanism of absorption the cell choose will be active absorption. That means the permease enzyme bind to the glucose molecule present outside the cell and takes it into the cytoplasm and release the glucose molecule into the cytoplasm. So that is active absorption. So it is a physiologically active process powered by ATP hydrolysis and enzymatic catalysis. Then the final one is bulk transfer. This is the absorption of substances in large bulk by endocytosis. In this process, plasma membrane produces pocket-like invaginations or small vesicles called endocytic vesicles. These vesicles enclose the substances to be transported into the cell. Then they grow inward into the cytoplasm and get pinched off from the cytoplasma membrane and become completely internalized. So, now they are called endosomes. Endosome is nothing but a small vesicle which carries some useful materials. Endocytosis of solid substances is called phagocytosis. You might have heard about phagocytosis in amoeba, and that of liquid substance is called pinocytosis. So, if the cell is taking solid substances into the cell, it is called phagocytosis, and if the cell is taking liquid substances in the form of vesicle, it is called pinocytosis. If we look into the absorption of various nutrients like amino acids, monosaccharides like glucose, electrolytes like sodium are mainly based on the concentration gradient. Fatty acids and glycerols being insoluble, they cannot be absorbed into the bloodstream directly. So they are first incorporated into small droplets called micelles, which move into the intestinal mucosa. They are reformed into very small protein coated fat globules called the chylomicrons, which are transported into the lymph vessels in the villi. These lymph vessels ultimately release the absorbed substances into the bloodstream. Absorption of substances take place in different parts of the alimentary canal like mouth, stomach, small intestine and large intestine. However, maximum absorption occur in the small intestine. So, in the mouth, when certain drugs come into contact with the mucosa or buccal mucosa and lower part of the lungs, they get directly absorbed into the bloodstream. And the main part of digestion occurs, or the churning of the food occurs in the stomach, and there also a small part of absorption take place. So, in stomach we can see the absorption of water, simple sugars and alcohols, etc. Then a major part of the absorption occurs within the small intestine. Principal organ for absorption of nutrients is the small intestine. The digestion is completed here and the final products of digestion such as glucose, fructose, fatty acids, glycerols and amino acids are absorbed through the mucosa into the bloodstream and lymph. Due to the presence of microvilli in the intestinal mucosa, the absorption will be maximum and the glycocalyx coat of the microvilli enhances the absorption of these materials into the bloodstream. Likewise, duodenum and jejunum, which is the initial part of the small intestine, has the maximum rate of absorption. And finally, large intestine. In the large intestine, absorption of water and some minerals and drugs occurs. And finally, the undigested waste materials are released out through the process of defecation, and it is a process involving vigorous peristaltic movement of the large intestine.